biggest games, the best performances, expert analysis. You are Locked On Now.
You are listening to Locked On Now, local experts on the biggest stories throughout the NBA. I'm your host, Kim Becker, and thanks so much for making Locked On Now your first listen every weekday morning. With the help of our local Locked On NBA hosts who give you everything you need to know from last night in the association, let's start with Sunday's biggest game.
The biggest game.
Brooklyn Nets went out on the road for their fifth game in a row over the Toronto Raptors last night, and Brooklyn got big efforts from their biggest stars. And our Locked On Nets host gives you all of the details.
Doug Norrie, Locked On Nets, coming at you after a 116-103 win over the Toronto Raptors in Toronto. The first time the Nets have won in Toronto since 2015. They did it on the back of two amazing games from the superstars. Kevin Durant pours in 31 points on super efficient shooting. James Harden looks like the foul issue might not be bothering him the same way people thought it was going to. 28 points, 10 rebounds, 8 assists, his best game of the season. Nets on a 5-game winning streak now. Looking like things are firing on all the cylinders the Nets thought they were going to at the beginning of the year. Offense looked great, really, really feisty on defense as well. We're going to be breaking it all down on Locked On Nets podcast and over on YouTube as well. Great win by the Brooklyn Nets.
Cavaliers marched into Madison Square Garden and handed the Knicks yet another loss at home thanks to career night from our best performance of Ricky Rubio.
The best performance.
Hold up.
What's up, everyone? Chris Manning here from the Locked On Cavs podcast, coming to you after the Cavs won 126-109 over the New York Knicks on Sunday night. The Cavs are now 7-4 in the year, 5-3 on the road, and beat a New York team where they probably should have lost on paper, but they came through, outscored the Knicks by 15 points in the third quarter, and were led by Ricky Rubio having 37 points, including 24 from behind the arc in this game. Darius Garland had a 16.5 assist, including 4 of 5 from 3, and Evan Mobley, the front runner in my mind for Rookie of the Year right now, 26.9 rebounds on 11 of 15 shooting, with 5 assists, a block, and a steal in his Madison Square Garden debut. This Cavs team has gone through a bunch this year. They're dealing with injuries. Colin Sexton left this one after only playing 13 minutes due to a left knee injury. That is a concern going forward. But this Cavs team is 3 games above 500. They just beat a good Knicks team on the road in New York. Maybe we need to start paying attention to the Cavs a little bit more. And if you want to do that, check out the Locked On Cavs podcast wherever you get your podcasts, and maybe just subscribe on YouTube as well.
And sometimes things just don't go your way. And sometimes Ricky Rubio just hits 8 straight threes on you to start the game. The New York Knicks couldn't have expected that out of the Spaniard on Sunday, but Locked On Knicks does point out that New York did have some issues of its own that helped them to their loss.
Hey everyone, Alex Wolf from Locked On Knicks. The Knicks lose again, 126-109 to the Cleveland Cavaliers. And as invigorating as that game against the Bucks was the other day, this one was equally deflating. Ricky Rubio goes off for a career-high 8 threes on 9 attempts, and he made his first 8 for 8. Insane stuff. You can't really game plan for that from a guy who's traditionally struggled to shoot in his career. That said, there was some of the same problems going on in this game that we've seen recently, where the starters were not bringing a ton of energy. The bench did, and that was just kind of the story of the game. And, the Knicks really need to figure out this whole taking every opponent seriously thing sooner than later, because, this Cavs team came in on a 3-game win streak, and the Knicks still just kind of acted like they were above it all for most of the game, which ultimately sunk them. So we'll see how it all goes. But, hopefully this is another wake-up call, as if they've needed any more of those through their 4 losses this year. But hopefully it's just the latest in a long run of things. Like, as Tibbs said after the game, just playing at home does not mean that you're going to win the game. You have to still defend home court and play well. So we'll see what happens, but we'll be back talking about more tomorrow. The Knicks go on the road to go to Philly. So we'll keep an eye on that and be back with more great podcasts for you guys on Locked On Knicks every day.
The Orlando Magic trailed by 10 in the fourth quarter against the Utah Jazz Sunday night, but that wasn't enough to keep Cole Anthony and Orlando from storming back. With more on a surprising comeback in Florida, our Locked On Magic host is here.
This is Philip Rossman, the host of Locked On Magic, and if I have one word of warning for any team out there, don't let Cole Anthony get you in a close game because he's going to pick you off. The Orlando Magic defeat the Utah Jazz 107-100, erasing an early 10-point fourth quarter deficit and just making play after play after play after play in the fourth quarter. It was just a really spirited closing stretch for the Orlando Magic, really their first clutch game of the season. Cole Anthony scoring 30-plus points, RJ Hampton making big shots, the team just making big play after big play to stop the Utah Jazz and get a really, really strong win. Orlando has two really nice wins this year against the New York Knicks and the Orlando Magic. But for a young Magic team, this was exactly what you wanted to see. The Magic played with incredible effort throughout the entire game, and while they certainly made some young mistakes to give away an early lead and fall behind, they never stopped fighting, and that has been the hallmark of this Magic team. Cole Anthony has really kind of been the face of this young group early in the season. That guy is a fighter. He does not quit. And when he's in his bag, he is as tough to beat as anyone out there. Well, maybe not anyone, but Cole Anthony is having a heck of a start to the season. The Orlando Magic with a huge win, 107-100, a big growth win, and a big moment for this young team to gain some confidence.
Coming up, our Locked On NBA hosts help wrap up our look around last night's NBA action here on Locked On Now. Built Bar is the best tasting protein bar ever. If you haven't tried a Built Bar by now, you are missing out. They say it's a protein bar, but it does not taste like one. You have to try one of these amazing bars yourself to believe it. Most protein bars are chalky or waxy or just plain hard to choke down. But a Built Bar is soft, covered in 100% real chocolate, and when you bite into it, you know you're eating something different. It's more of an experience and one that you'll enjoy. In fact, you'd swear you're eating a candy bar. Built Bars are low carb, low calorie, low fat, low sugar, and high in protein. So all of the healthy benefits on top of just being purely delicious. Another great thing about Built Bar, there are so many mouth-watering flavors, including coconut, raspberry, mint brownie, coconut almond, salted caramel, double chocolate, and cherry Garcia. And this month, Built is coming out with new limited time flavors every 3 to 4 days. So check their website often because you do not want to miss out. Go to Built.com, use promo code LOCKED15 and get 15% off of your order. Use promo code LOCK15 for 15% off at Built.com. Welcome back to Locked On Now. I'm your host, Kim Becker, and thank you for making Locked On Now your first listen every weekday. Now let's turn again to our Locked On NBA hosts for a recap of the rest of the action around the NBA on Sunday.
Let's go around the league.
Winning on the road is never easy, and the Indiana Pacers had the added pressure of remaining winless on the road when it entered Sacramento. Indiana broke that streak on Sunday with a win, and Locked On Pacers tells us how it happens.
Daylight savings has changed the clock and officially the Indiana Pacers because tonight, for the first time this season, they won on the road. They beat the Sacramento Kings 94-91, and for a team that had blown a lot of close games this season, it was refreshing to see the Pacers hold on and close out a close game like this against a Sacramento team that fought really hard to get back into this one. They had some chances to tie it up or even take the lead down the stretch, but the Pacers were able to pull it off. All of the Pacers starters in double figures. TJ McConnell was excellent with 18 points and 7 rebounds. Miles Turner was excellent with 12 points and 15 rebounds. Those two guys were the stars for the Pacers, as in they did the most on both ends. But again, a nice group contribution from all the starters and a really good defensive effort from the Pacers in this game, holding the Kings to just 91 a couple nights after the Kings put up a ton of points and hit a bunch of threes. So good for the Pacers to get their first road win, get back on track a little bit after stumbling on Friday, and they'll try again in Denver on Wednesday. We'll have more on this game and on the Indiana Pacers on the Locked On Pacers podcast.
The Kings fell down to 5-5 after a hot start of the season with a loss to the Pacers, but Sacramento still has a lot to cheer about to start the season after more than a few years without as much. Locked On Kings tried to find bright spots in this loss.
If you need proof of the Sacramento Kings' overall improvement as a basketball team, Look at this loss to the Indiana Pacers, where the offense was terrible, coming off of a 140-point performance against the Charlotte Hornets. But the Kings' defense kept them in this game from start to finish. They had multiple chances to win this one at the end, but unfortunately, the slow offense and the poor start by the Kings starters let them down. Tyrese Halliburton went full takeover mode in the fourth quarter. That still wasn't enough. Buddy Hield was fantastic on both sides of the floor in this game. You're right. You heard me correctly. Buddy Hield, great defensively in this game as well as offensively. We're not into moral victories here in Sacramento, but there are positives to pull out of this Kings loss to the Pacers. A 5-5 start to the season. Tough game against Phoenix is coming up tomorrow. We'll talk about this game, preview that game, and a whole lot more on tonight's Locked On Kings podcast.
The Houston Rockets continued a miserable start to the new season. Houston is now 1-9, while Golden State improved to 8-1, and the Rockets couldn't slow down that Showtime Warriors offense. Here's Locked On Rockets after yet another loss.
The Warriors exploding in the third quarter, and what is going on with Christian Wood? What's up? Jackson Gatlin here for over at Locked On Rockets. The Rockets falling to the Warriors 120-107 behind Golden State's ridiculous third quarter explosion, a 20-3 run to end the third frame. But the big question from this game, what's going on with Christian Wood? At the end of the Rockets-Nuggets game, Christian Wood said post-game that he wanted to, quote-unquote, be more involved in the offense, and then he went through the entire first half of this game and didn't attempt a single shot. Finishes the game just 2 of 5 shooting, only 4 points, 1 rebound. What in the world is going on with Christian Wood? We'll break down that situation and everything else from this game over at Locked On Rockets.
The Clippers continue to get back on track after a rough start with another win at home against Charlotte. The weekend ended with LA above 500 for the first time this season, and our Locked On Clippers host says this team is starting to find its rhythm.
What's going on, Clips fans? Chuck Mockler here, one half of the hosting duo over at Locked On Clippers, coming at you after the Clippers wrap up a victorious weekend. They get the win over the Hornets at Staples Center. Paul George puts up 29 and 8. Reggie Jackson added 19. Terrence Mann had a double-double, and the fans still want him to start. He made his case yet again in this game versus the Hornets. He was fantastic. 6 guys in double digits. You can't ask for a whole lot more from the Clippers, except cleaning up the turnovers. On to the Blazers, where if they can keep this up, maybe cut out the turnovers, the win streak could keep on going.
That's a wrap for us. Thanks so much for making Locked On Now your first listen every weekday morning. For more on the NBA and your team, make your second listens Locked On NBA and your team's Locked On podcast. I'm Kim Becker, and this was Locked On Now, Locked On Your Team every day.